Why is this thing going off?
Oh, actually, I might just turn it because then the camera quality is better. Yep, that's better. Okay, cool. Boom.
Sit how you're gonna normally sit.
Yeah. What's yours?
So if I'm like this, then I need to just move the camera a little bit over.
Yeah.
We're almost there.
Behind the scenes, guys, this is what it takes to be a rock star.
Just to share with
Public
people.
speaker.
Just sharing with people. Okay, so that's where you're gonna be. So what? Somebody's
Yeah.
already. You're already
good.
live.
Yeah, I'm live, bro.
Oh, you're live
I'm ready.
already.
I'm ready.
Let's see. Viewfinder inactive. Press any button.
Viewfinder. You don't need no viewfinder.
Okay, good.
You're
We're just gonna press play.
Okay.
Pow.
Boom. Shakalaka.
Nice.
Oh, here are the questions. You can see the questions. Right?
Sweet.
Okay.
All right, here we go. We're looking at. There you go.
Let's do it.
Now we got it. Okay.
All right.
So let's see.
We got half an hour to do this.
Okay, sweet. Let's get it.
Get it.
How about, since we spoke about this one,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about, I guess, this one.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think we should do that, or is it too similar to the last one?
Let's just do it.
Let's do it. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So this one, how do you differentiate between healthy solitude for self-reflection and detrimental loneliness?
Should we take turns like
in
answering?
entrepreneurship?
Or?
We're both gonna answer.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
but
do that.
You have a crack at it first.
Okay. So,
Or I could go.
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I just had a call with my coach. Shout out to Mark Hunter. And I talked about this next year, I'm going to be like monk mode, right? So, but my version of monk mode. So I'm not literally going to be chilling in the mountains. But I do think there's something to be said about like just trusting our own intuition and not taking way too much feedback. Like I think there's a lot of like people that have all these amazing ideas and they're always asking a billion, and I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people where I'm like, let me ask every entrepreneur all this advice, but really it was just like my excuse of just like really just connecting with people, just networking, right? But I do think that there is loneliness, like there's like a delicate balance, right? I do think. So for me, I think a good structure would be like 3 days of like more connection and like I'm chatting with people, like talking to potential coaching clients, and then the other like 3 days is gonna be more like deep work and like recording the courses, like writing the articles, the newsletters, like building the email marketing list and all this stuff, right? So I think the hardest thing as an entrepreneur so far, and I mean this. I guess full-time entrepreneur for me has been 12 weeks, so it's still relatively new. But I would say when I'm feeling lonely, I just like, don't be afraid to just pick up and call, you know, but actually a deeper exercise would be like, well, why do I feel lonely? Is it because am I like not going to CrossFit? Am I like trying to work too hard? But it's like, so I need to have a baseline. So my baseline has to be, I have to do at least 3 or 4 days of CrossFit or some sort of physical activity. Like I have to get some sort of interaction, right? Even if it's like going to the chiropractor or going to acupuncture, like some sort of human face-to-face interaction. If I don't get that, then I know I'm gonna be miserable. My wife is gonna be like, yo, why is he so grumpy? So that's, for me, that's how I can be able to be productive, but also be able to manage like when I'm feeling lonely. How about you?
That's sweet. So healthy solitude for self-reflection. I love having that time. I think the very first thing, one of the first core things to look at is, are you okay with being alone? So are you okay with spending time with no one else around, with just your thoughts? So I love having that time, and I'm just used to that. So I've studied that. I practiced that for like over 25 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I like grew up as a martial artist, and they taught us meditation in the beginning. But meditation you can use for a lot of ways. And my favorite way of using meditation or meditative techniques is to just look at myself as, am I acting or being who I want to be continuously, right? So everyone should, you can use frameworks. I mean, I could list off some frameworks that you have, but I mean, it's just basically gonna go to 3 levels, I think. General level is you need to be, are you okay with being solo or not? And the second is, are you able to identify the things that you need to do while you're alone, right? And are you able to say no to other people or things?
That's a good one.
So it's those three parts. Then it gets just specific, like it gets granular. It should be personalized, and it should be fun. It should be fun to do. Like, you know what? I have Thursday for my girlfriend, and we have this dinner, and we get to talk about these different things I wanted to bring up. You know, it's going to be a good time. It's just going to be us. Okay. And then maybe you have Friday just for you, right? Or maybe you have it just with one of your other best friends, or it's intentional. That's the thing. And I don't know, there's just plenty of people running around who are just not intentional with their time or their alone time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been guilty of that myself, right? So when we say other people, I'm also speaking from, like, there's a lot of times where I'll just do things because it's fun, but it's not necessarily moving the needle forward as much in the business, but it's fun. So I would say there's something to be said about just having fun, right? But at the end of the day, like, we still need to pay the bills, like, right? We still have goals and things like that. So it's like, we're gonna have a delicate balance of, like, having fun, but there's also intentional action that's moving the needle forward in like the actual big rocks versus like getting distracted by people calling and texting. And then sometimes, like, I just have to turn off my phone, you know?
Yep. I have like no notifications on my phone.
Yeah.
And big rocks, little rocks. I just taught that in a training. I love that. That was a good one. Yeah. So how the differentiate between healthy solitude for self-reflection and detrimental loneliness. So whether it be for entrepreneurship or professionalism, just in general. So what we just described, a lot of it was for self-reflection, having solitude, and the difference between having detrimental loneliness is, just not doing that. So you're not taking the time to know what you need. You're not taking the time to communicate what you need, and you're not taking the intention to actually do the work to find what that is, right? So if you're not doing those things, no matter where you're at, what level that you're at, you're going to be feeling like you're constricted. You're going to feel like you're lonely, even if you're even if you are around a bunch of other people, because you're not going to feel like you're taken care of, or you're being heard, or you're being listened to. So, yeah, that's that. So don't do that. And if you need help with that, then that's what we do, just in different forms. So
Yeah.
that's that question. Good job. Let's see. Okay. Let's see for this one. Okay. So, what role does vulnerability play in fostering authentic connections within the entrepreneurial or professional community? Okay, so you went first, I'll go first.
Okay.
All right, so, okay. This is how people actually like you. Okay, this is how people,
I love that.
This is how people can
That's
actually.
that's a quote. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah.
I love
You're
that
gonna
quote.
write that?
Yeah, this is how people actually like you.
So, oh my gosh.
That's such a good quote.
Like,
Title of my next article.
I have over 12 years of sales experience, and 7 of those years was in door-to-door sales. And I used to be in high school just terrified of public speaking. I was not able to face the class. I had to look away from the class and then try to do the presentation while the class was over there. And that's just because I didn't have the skill set or know what kind of mindset I needed to have. I've had mentors teach me what that is. So, and now we're here, right? So after literally speaking with, I think I could say, thousands of people, right? Like trying to build relationships, and on top of that, trying to train people, hundreds of people, as to how to have the correct kind of mindset for what we're trying to accomplish, how to be able to take care of themselves. Then with me messing up on my own, then teaching myself how to do it, and still teaching others. What you need is to have connection. How you have connection with the most important person first, which is yourself, is be able to be vulnerable with yourself. So you have to really find out, understand, dive in as to what do you need for you, right? Some of the things that we've been saying already. Then after that, what you do is you're able to then, it's like it comes from a stronger place. If you know kind of where you're coming from, you go to the next layer outside of that, which is the other human outside of you. Then you're able to talk to somebody and say, okay, besides work, besides the weather, and besides some basic things, what do you like to do for travel? Like, besides being really basic, what you would do is ask more value-based questions and be able to share how your perspective on the world is different, and like, oh, what's your perspective? So an example is like, what do you think about the current work that you're doing? Do you feel like you're being appreciated? Because you know what? I think I am. I feel that way. But I feel like maybe I could be appreciated a little bit more. You know? That's different, right? And you're like in the example that I just gave, right? That's touching on a human aspect that is actually interesting. So that's something I used to also teach, how to network with people, how to create connections. That's some of the events that I ran before. That's the event, something that we're going to run in the future. And without over talking, because I could talk about this for a very long time, that's it. People respect you more. People like you more in the first place because they understand that you're a real person, instead of just catering or people pleasing to this is what I think they will like, or this is something I achieved, an accolade, right? President's Club, actually did 100K in X amount of time, actually hit $1 million in my company. Okay, these are accolades that we're working towards, but who are you as a person? And one thing that we are all tied to as humans is pain. So we can all relate to that. So that's my answer for that.
Yeah, that's pretty. I like what you said, because I think like as humans we typically like, oh, how's the weather and blah blah, like surface level, right?
Yeah.
And I actually wrote down, this is how people actually like you, in terms of like how does vulnerability play a part in like actually having authentic connection with people. But it's actually the hardest thing to be vulnerable, right? Because like no one likes to admit their flaws, right? Like it's so much easier to, hey guys, these are the awards and I'm guilty of it myself, right? Like I just won the LinkedIn training badge award, right? LinkedIn top voice for training, right? So like of course.
Yeah. You have a good voice.
So you know, don't get me wrong, like there is times where I'm like the superficial, like, hey guys, I won employee of the month, like all that stuff, like, but you know, but it's like how I position it too, right? So let's say I make a YouTube video and I'm like, hey guys, like, you know, like I've been in sales my whole life, and it's scary to transition from sales to training, because like honestly trainers usually don't make as much money as like President's Club salespeople, right? So it's like, hey, would I be okay with making a third of the amount of, let's say I made $275K in sales, right? Would I be okay with making just $75K as a trainer, but I love what I do, right? Like that takes vulnerability, because most people would be like, well, that's stupid. Like, do you not have a family? Like, is your wife gonna be mad? Like, whatever, right? So for me, I think vulnerability is like a super power, and it's not easy, right? Like, it's not easy for me to like call 100 people and be like, hey guys, like I just started my own business, like I'm too broke, would you be able to fund my venture, you know, friends and family, and like, you know, I promise I'll hook you up, like, you know, once I make it, right? Like that's not easy.
That's not easy.
You know, because like out of the 100, like 30 people said yes, which is still like a pretty good ratio, but 70 people were like, nah dude, like I got my own issues, you know.
Maybe later, they said maybe later.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
some of them maybe said no, but that's real.
But I guess the point is like, it takes courage, and like it doesn't feel good. Like I'm not like calling and I'm like, I get off, I'm like, oh yeah, like I got rejected, right?
Yeah.
It's more like, oh, like I would rather be authentic than try to be someone who I'm not. And don't get me wrong, there's been plenty of times where I've tried to be other influencers, because I'm like, oh, this guy got like 1,000 likes, like let me try my version of that. And then you know, sometimes they get feedback and they're like, yo, like I think you're trying too hard, bro. And I'm like, oh, okay, well,
this isn't you.
Noted. But I'm like, but I still got 60 likes, so hey, like it's all good.
See,
you know?
That's really good experience. You reminded me of something actually very important. So when you're also vulnerable, then that also gives one of the biggest opportunities for learning, right? For yourself. So if you know what you messed up on, okay, if you know that you are this much of something, some part of you needs more working on, then if you have a positive mindset, right, that means you become more solution oriented. Okay, so what are we gonna do about it? Oh, now I know it exists in the first place.
Yeah.
Wow. Like
Very distinct.
so many things that you've told me, Davidson, within the last just few years that you've been working on, you have put in so much work and got so much better because you were able to face that vulnerability, right? With yourself. You didn't even have to share with anybody else, but you're facing it. And same thing with me in different levels, right? I could pat myself on the back for that. There's just so much that I've learned in different ways, and just because you're able to open up. So just that first part of recognizing and opening up, that is already what the grand majority of people who are just having too much stress that they don't need to have, what they need to work on. So
that's really good distinction. I think you're onto something. Like vulnerability leads to like knowing, like it's like, hey, like I don't know the answer, like I'm not perfect, like, you know, and it invites like the opportunity for someone else to contribute, whether or not whatever they say is helpful at all. Like at least people are willing to make the effort, and to me, like that's a beautiful thing, right? But it's up to us to discern, like, is this actually relevant, or take it with a grain of salt. Like if 10 people are like, yo, Davidson, your AI picture on your website, like it kind of is creepy, like you should change it, then I should probably change it. So today I got my 11th person that said that. I'm like, okay, I should probably change it, you know? But it's like, you know, like, but then, you know, I think part of me, why I'm holding on to it, and maybe I have to position it better, is like, hey, I think AI allows us to like, so we don't have to think as much, like we can just, focus on the things that actually matter, which in my case, like I just want to be able to connect with people and serve, right? So it's like less, I have to like get all dolled up and go to like a nice, you know, photographer that charges me like $1,000 for like really nice headshots. Like I would rather not spend that money. So maybe the next time, like maybe being vulnerable is just like, hey, this is like, what's up, like take it or leave it.
And then you ask you have other friends be able to ask you good questions for you to think even further outside the box. So how do I have photography grade, professional grade photos of myself for $0?
That's what I.
How do I do that?
That's why I use AI. Yeah. But apparently,
AI.
it creeps people out, and they're like, "Dude, you look like you just look very different."
Well, that is one solution, right? Then you have a solution of you could barter, right? You have tons of skills.
Well, you have a nice camera, so.
I do. I can take it over.
I guess next time we're doing
true.
a photo shoot.
So that's a real thing. That's a real thing. So
that's a good point.
That all came from. You know what? Maybe actually this isn't a good enough profile picture.
Yeah,
that's just
fair.
one. That's a small, medium example. So
love that.
Good job, us. Let's see here. Okay, let me see.
We're at a WeWork for
This
context.
They don't even know where we are. We could be in your garage.
Sure.
Right? That's well.
So,
that's yours.
Have I ever faced criticism or skepticism regarding my decision? Well, it's interesting. I would say like the self-criticism.
Decision to start your own business, or a decision to start a new project or new venture, even within if you're working for a company.
That's true. I do think like half of the battle, 75% of the battle, at least for myself, is like the criticism within myself, right? Like, yo, like, bro, like, did you realize like you're leaving behind like $200,000 in income that you're used to making for like the last 5 years to literally start over to make zero? Like, do you know what you're doing, bro? Like, so actually the self-criticism within ourselves is like the strongest, right? And every entrepreneur, you know, has this, whether they admit it or not. Yeah. But I think the key is, well, what am I grounded? Like, what is the scoreboard? Like, what are the carrots that I'm chasing, right? And like in the past, it was like, okay, well, if I get into this amazing company, if I get into like LinkedIn or Facebook or Google, then like I've made it, right? Like it's like I was able to prove that I'm a smart mofo, right? So it's like, oh, well, that's not a really good reason of like joining that company. You know, obviously during the interview process, I say what they want to hear, but if I'm like actually being honest with myself,
right?
And most people aren't honest with themselves, right? And I bet you if I ask any LinkedIner, they're like, oh, it's mission driven and blah blah blah. It's like, bro, like shut up, like. And then when I actually have like coaching conversations with them, I'm like, hey, like what is it? They're like, I'm not gonna lie, it's because it's one of the hardest companies to get into and it's prestigious. Like it looks good. It's like getting into Harvard, right? I'm like, that's the truth. You know, so basically what I'm saying is the reason why I'm critical of myself is more of, oh, I'm attached to the past and I'm attached to like, oh, the prestige of working at LinkedIn and and you came to visit, like it was nice. I'm not gonna lie, it was nice for me to have friends over and they're like, yo, this is cool, bro, high five, like you made it.
It's really great.
And but really, I guess the hard part for me is like, okay, am I still a valuable man if I am making at least initially, right, a tenth of what I was used to making? So you would argue, like most Asian families would be like, yeah, you're not as much of a man, right? But it's like, okay, well, what do I care about? Like, never mind what other people care about. What do I actually care about? And I'm like, you know what? Like, no, actually, I think I'm more of a man because I'm not afraid to ask for help. Like, I'm not afraid to be vulnerable. I'm not afraid to show like my icky side and like, like I don't have to like always look amazing and gel my hair and you know what I mean? Like I can just show up and for some people like they might not vibe with that, but I'm not trying to vibe with everyone. I'm just being me.
Awesome. What would you that's a great point. That's great insight that you bring. How would you recommend that other people find that or deal with that kind of self-criticism?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think like having conversations like openly with you, like or anyone who is going through a similar journey, right? Because when you called and you're like, hey, bro, like and I was just honest. I was like, hey, man, like I'm struggling, like just letting you know. And you're like, dude, like and we were able to vibe on that like wavelength, right? So I think the first step is to like not hold it in ourselves, like not try to figure it out on our own. And I think and I think part of it is just being with it, right? It's like, okay, well what does this sadness, well, what am I actually sad about? It's like, oh, okay, I'm actually sad that at LinkedIn I did get to be surrounded by really cool and smart and like good people that have really good hearts that were, like very like nice people to hang out with. Like that's actually what I'm more, so it's actually more me being sad about that instead of like the criticism. If I wasn't able to dig deep into the layers, like it was more surface level. It's like, well, because my mom isn't able to brag about me as much, right? That would be like the surface level. It's like, well, is that coming from fear? It's like, yeah, that is coming from fear. It's like, okay, well, what's behind that fear? It's like, oh, well, my fear is actually that I'm not as interesting because I don't work at a really cool company. It's like, well, why do you want to be interesting? It's like, oh, well, who will want to hang out with me? It's like, okay, well, what happens if no one wants to hang out with me? Does that mean you're a loser? It's like, well, not really, because like now I can be able to hang out with myself. I can be with myself, right? So these are the layers. So hopefully that's helpful.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, that takes real introspection and actual work. A lot of work that a lot of people are afraid of doing. But it's necessary if you want to reach the top, but also not be destroyed on your way or destroy other people. So what I would do, well, first of all, what criticism I faced. Sure, I faced some criticism in terms of either be some jobs I was doing or either doing my own thing. But the biggest thing, just like you said, actually, that was very, very close to it, that I have my own criticism. I am my worst critic, really, over time. And I think, I forget if I even fall under type A. I think I do. I think everyone who's like really passionate, really want to make this happen, like we have a goal in front of us, whether it's something small, you're working for a company, and we're going to do this. Like, this is going to happen. I'm like, okay, people know I can handle it. People know that I'm doing it. And that's it. So maybe that as time progresses, that actually, you don't have to force people to actually, hey, look at me so much. But when they do at all, it's like, this is what's going on. This is done. Because I'm in charge of this, I can do it. So people get worked up over that. So I have gotten worked up over that. I've gotten worked up over being able to hit certain numbers or hit certain goals, and I've hit them, and I was new to, let's say, a few companies, and then be overperforming than several of the other newer people who were there. And that's great, but maybe putting too much excess work, too much excess time, not enough knowing of exactly what I should be doing to still be okay with the company, but not oversaturate myself with just immense pressure that's unnecessary. So that criticism was there as to, am I doing enough? Should we do enough? And what am I missing? Am I missing? Am I not doing enough? Am I not enough in the first place? So all these questions happen. And so how to deal with criticism, I think deal with that big monster that's there, is be able to break it down into smaller chunks, right? So the criticism is the thing of a whole, right? Well, if I don't do good at my job, then I might not be good enough in my relationships with my partner. Because if I'm not good with my partner, then that's because, well, am I good enough with my family yet? If I'm not good with my family yet, well, is that because I'm not really providing for them? But if I'm not providing for them, well, how much do I need left over to provide for myself? And if I'm not doing that, then exactly like, what kind of job should I even be in this job happening? So it's literally 5 different points that jump over in different ways. That's not the same paradigm, but it all falls under the same mind, right? And that's what, tons of people go through. It's just, well, if this, then that. And so I think the first step to really letting go of heavy criticism is really being grateful for what you have and the skill set that you have. Yeah. So the last team I was coaching, actually, very recently, we did this exercise of every single person goes one by one and announcing in front of everyone why they are great. All right. So it could be for something emotional or something physical, like skill-wise that they do at the company, that they're great. You are hired. You are probably great at something. And you know what? I'll be bold enough to say you are great at something. If somebody hired you, and you're there for more than a few days, a week or so, like you're doing something there, So it was a good reminder, because when I told them that, and everyone got tensed up, right? Because why? How many times do we actually go out seeking feedback from someone else, seeking what can I do? Criticism, constructive criticism is how can I get better, right? But then how many times do we actually go up and just like that other video that we made, how many times do we go up and actually express our positivity, the value that we're adding here, right? Yeah. Maybe not as much. So everyone went around, and some people were just tight to be like, okay, some people were trying to over talk themselves. And then we got into a group, so it's simple as like, I am great at organization. I'm great at making great energy, right? For the office. I'm great at being able to go above and beyond and try to communicate with people. Okay, so it's like and everyone gave the same feedback afterward, that they were so grateful to have that exercise. And then after that, actually, we did another exercise where everyone had to tell somebody else why they're great. Right? And so that was a huge thing for team building. Yeah. Everyone felt even warmer. What happens when you feel warmer at a company that's genuine? It means you get to trust more. Trust more, then you get to respect more. You get to respect more, then you hate coming in less, quote unquote, right? You get to have higher productivity and still be able to implement different changes better. So it all stacks, right? And what's from criticism, skepticism from yourself, that's so nuts. And so, anyway, that would be the first thing. And, there's a lot more for criticism we can talk about, but that's where it's started.
Well, there's a lot of good insights. We'll probably do more of these. Like, I think it's good, but we have to catch a train soon.
Yeah.
But man, dude, it's been so fun to do this with you.
So great job.
In summary, all right. So how about you bottom line a couple points, and I'll bottom line like my takeaways from this discussion.
Sure. That everyone needs to spend a lot more time on just relaxing. Yeah. So how to relax, you should be able to, you can look it up on Google or whatnot, or you can watch more of our content. You should be able to talk with us more on one-on-one, that's fine. Because you can have frameworks that you can look up that just, meditation, being able to let go of distractions, right? Maybe digital detox. But then after you do that, there's a very real fundamental level of how you can be specifically organized with yourself as to how you can have systems in place, actual systems of how you actually have positive self-talk, how you're able to let things go easier, how you're able to build stronger relationships, how you're able to still stay highly productive, how you're able to say no to things, and all of these things put together, normally, at least through our experiences, will give you more money, or at least the money that you're looking for, while being aligned with the kind of work that you want to be doing, while being aligned with the kind of values that you want to be upholding, so you're literally living how you want to live. So don't be so hard on yourself. Work with somebody else if you don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
You can work with us for different reasons, but yeah, so.
Yeah, well said. I think to bottom line it, I would say, we're always our own worst critic. So if you feel like you're being really hard on yourself, like you're not alone. I like we said about alignment, like just like doing the deep work, and sometimes that is, reflecting and journaling, having systems. I like what you said. Having systems, so that could be like meditation or something. We all have our avenues. You do judo, you do martial arts, like I do CrossFit, right? So as long as we have a healthy way to process it, I do believe that's one way that we can help manage our stress. But yeah, reach out to us if you want to learn more, and stay tuned for some exciting stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, and the events that we're going to be doing. So great.
Yeah. All right, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Peace.
Yeah. Great job.